We begin today's program out in Iowa, that critical state. We are pleased to be joined via Skype by Matt Strawn, the chairman of the Iowa Republican Party and also the owner of the Iowa Barnstormers, which we just love that little factoid about you, Matt. Let's start with what to expect this weekend. We're hearing a lot of candidates set a lot of expectations. Realistically, how well does a candidate for president have to do in Ames in order to be competitive come February?
Well, greetings from Iowa, and it's just your typical week in politics with about 100 presidential candidate events between now and when the voters go to the polls in Ames at 10 o'clock on Saturday. Historically, it's proven a very vital piece to the presidential nomination chase here in Iowa, partly because these campaigns need to identify who their key organizers are across the state leading up to the February caucuses. As your viewers know, we're not a primary state, we're a caucus state, which means that you need leaders spread out across the state's 1,800 precincts who are going to organize for you on a cold February night. Hopefully February, I'm still optimistic. But it's a great opportunity to find out who those leaders are, because if somebody's going to get in a car, get on a bus on a summer Saturday and come to Ames to support you, that's somebody you can count on in February. So it's a very important test for these campaigns.
It's an important test, and it's become sort of a rite of passage, especially, certainly for Republican candidates in the past couple cycles. But Matt, when you look at the most recent polls, you have Romney at the top, then you have Perry, who hasn't jumped in; he won't be playing there. You have Palin, who's probably not going to be, certainly not on the ballot in Ames. Are you guys losing some of your cachet this year with the late start and some of these people not in and other people not taking an interest?
Well, I don't think so. It's one thing, we've got a record request for actually credentialed members of the media who will be in Iowa. So, I know a few months ago, folks were trotting out that tired storyline, whether Iowa is relevant. But the fact that the candidates are here, we're going to have a full debate stage Thursday night on the first time the Iowa Republican Party's ever partnered with a news organization for a debate. And I know we look forward to our ABC one in December.
You know it.
I think, Iowa's going to maintain that role it's traditionally had in, being that kickoff state and really vetting those that want to be the Republican nominee for president.
So we know, of course, there are a couple of candidates who aren't playing at all. Rick Perry and Sarah Palin aren't candidates, so that's one level. But also Mitt Romney has made a big statement by saying he's not going to be there. Can a candidate not play in Ames and still be competitive and hope to win the Iowa caucuses, or is it really one or the other?
Well, I think the next months will prove that out. As you know, the chairman of the party needs to remain neutral because I am the one who runs the election and the caucus process, and I'll leave it to the wisdom of the voters to assess that decision over the coming months. But the one thing with Mitt Romney that's different this time than 4 years ago is, he needed the straw poll to get known among Iowa caucus goers. And Governor Romney already has identified supporters in the state from his last race. So it's a little bit different to compare 4 years ago to this situation. And I think it's an incredible opportunity for, the first-time presidential candidates who have been in the state, looking caucus goers in the eye, to see if their message is resonating and whether they can get their supporters to Ames on a Saturday. Because we really have a very fluid field right now. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that caucus goers want to get this decision right. We understand that America can't afford 4 more years of Barack Obama's presidency. So I think you see a much more deliberative process going on with your typical Iowa caucus goer.
Matt, we're here stuck inside the sweltering Washington, D.C. bubble. We don't really know what's going on out there in the country, particularly in Iowa. What is the number one issue that that differentiates all these candidates that are going to be there over the coming week? What is going to be the one issue that they're going to focus on and is going to set them apart?
Well, I think one thing that's been interesting, historically, there's always been a narrative that your Iowa Republican caucus goer is very, focused on social conservatism. The interesting thing so far is a lot of the television ads from the candidates have focused almost exclusively on economic issues, specifically related to the debt ceiling. In fact, it's probably no coincidence that every single member of Congress from Iowa, Republican and Democrat, did vote no on that debt deal. And I can tell you, no matter where I go in the state, issues related to spending and an economy that isn't creating private sector jobs are the first things I hear, not just from regular Iowans, but those that are going to be at the straw poll and are going to be caucus goers. So I think it will be incredibly interesting to see how the candidates address those issues in Thursday night's debate and in their speeches at the straw poll on Saturday.
All right, so tell us how you're looking at these results on Saturday. Are there any people that you're watching? Any surprises you're on the lookout for? What do you expect to be the takeaway beyond the top order of finish 1, 2, 3? Are there any kind of subplot lines that you, as the chairman of the party, are going to be looking for?
Well, as chairman of the party, I want as large and robust a crowd as possible, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that every candidate is portrayed in the best possible light, because we believe, that the next president of the United States will be a Republican. And, I'm not going to speculate on what the order may be, but what I can tell you that excites me is I'm hearing from people all across the state that are saying this will be the first time they've ever attended a straw poll. And you think about how dramatic that is in the state that launched Barack Obama 4 years ago. Iowa isn't just going to be competitive during the caucus process, but it's actually going to be one of those 8 to 9 states in November of 2012 that will decide who the next president is. And to give you one example of how dramatically Iowa has changed, since President Obama was inaugurated in January of 2009, over 1 in 10 Iowa Democrats have left their party. That's over 65,000 Iowans that have said, no thanks, I'm not a Democrat anymore, since Barack Obama was inaugurated. So I think the straw poll is a great jumping off point for not just our efforts in the caucus, but to organize to make sure Iowa gives its electoral votes to a Republican next November.
Yeah,
all right,
but Matt, come on, those people haven't left the party to become Republicans. They've left to become independents, right?
Well, I tell you what, though, that's somebody that isn't going to volunteer for President Obama, and it's a very open issue whether they're going to vote for him. To take an affirmative step to say, I'm no longer a Democrat. And I can tell you, actually, Iowa Republicans have been the only party that's grown in registration since Obama's been president. Even no party voters have declined relative to Iowa Republicans. And we've had 28 straight months of registration gains on the Democrats. And I think you'll see some of that energy and enthusiasm present in Ames on Saturday. And I think it will be a great springboard, not just for our candidates, but for the party efforts here as well.
Matt Strawn, the chairman of the Iowa Republican Party. The place to be this week is going to be in steamy Ames. Thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. We'll check in with you after it's all done.
Hey, thanks, fellas.